So, hi, Lawrence. What was your first computer?
My first computer was a Tandy TRS-80.
Oh, okay. And how old were you back then?
Well, let's see. I had to be 35 or something.
Oh,
at that
35.
time.
So
Yeah.
I should frame the question differently. Maybe what was your first circuit, or what you did before computers?
Well, and that's a great question for me. When I started practicing law in 1974,
Hmm.
we typed all of our pleadings on a typewriter.
Okay.
So, and if we needed copies, we put in carbon paper.
Uh-huh.
So that's how far back I go. It
Okay.
was a while before we even got an IBM Selectric typewriter that had enough memory to do a single line of text.
Okay. But were
And
you
even late,
always to technology, or were just, you always wanted to become a lawyer?
I used to admire the geeks in my high school back when I was in high school, but I was on the lawyer track all since then. I have a BA in English.
Ah, okay.
So the only options for me with that kind of a degree were either teach English or go into law school. And so
Okay.
I picked law school.
And you were passionate about law, or just you had to do this?
Yeah, I had only two choices, and that
Ah, okay.
was the lesser of two evils, I guess.
Okay. So now, 35 years later, or it might be interesting with the typewriters. So you like, the typing experience with IBMs, or what is the story?
No, it was terrible. It was when the first little computer came out that had 100K of memory. We got one and put it on the desk at the office, and it could only remember a single page of
Okay.
text. So we were anxious to get out of the typewriter business if we could.
Okay. And where you grew up, where was it? Which part of US?
This is Salt Lake City, Utah.
Ah, always. Okay. Salt Lake City. Okay. And so you grew up and then you studied law, right? I think.
Right. Let me tell you a little story about that if you're interested.
Yeah,
When
sure.
I first got my law certificate, I went to a meeting where another lawyer was retiring, and he said that from the day he graduated from law school until the day he retired, he only worked on one case, which was the El Paso natural gas pipeline case.
Okay.
Well, that's not my experience. About 1985, I got the client who wanted to send me multiple cases.
Okay.
Eventually, it was about 400 cases a month.
Wow.
Well, I knew I couldn't handle that volume of cases with paper and pencil and files and those kinds of things. You had to have a system.
Okay.
So that's when I decided I was going to have to systematize my practice and find out what I could do with computers.
Ah, so you wanted just to increase your productivity, your output, right? This was the
Right.
okay.
I was going to learn Pascal after this Tandy computer was a kit that I got and had to build with my soldering iron.
One
As a
question.
hobby.
One
Yeah.
question. Is it like you are a special lawyer or a general purpose lawyer? I have no idea about law. So is this like specific direction you practice, or how to imagine that?
Well, my specialty would be called civil litigation, contract cases, although I've handled a few criminal defense cases and a few divorce cases and some estate planning, but not very many. Most of my cases were contract law cases, civil courtroom cases.
Okay. And what was the most exciting or cool or whatever colored case you can talk about?
That's a tough question. I made law when I sued a guy for his polygamous wife and got money out of him, and that made law at the Supreme Court level of Utah.
Okay.
So that was kind of exciting and interesting.
Okay, so because of your involvement, you changed the law. This is what I understood, right?
Right, that's right.
Wow, it's almost meta. Okay, but now you said something interesting. In your free time, in your leisure, you soldered a computer. Is it right?
Right. I bought this kit from Tandy Corporation and built this computer. They sent the parts, and it's kind of like painting by numbers. All I had to do was follow the instructions. Stayed up all night and soldered it all together, and in the morning it didn't work. So I went back and resoldered some of the components, and wow, it worked. And it worked for years after that.
And you enjoyed the experience, or you had to do this?
No, I enjoyed it. It was fun. I did this for fun.
So then you are a geek, actually, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is, I think, a rare combination between a lawyer and a geek, right?
I think that's true. Oh, not so much anymore. I think the new generation kids that are coming out of law school now know the technology. But back in my generation, it was absolutely unique.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons I had to get into this is because there was not a program that would do what I wanted it to do, and I had to write it myself. Mm-hmm. And I knew that.
Okay, so to increase your productivity, and so you created your first computer, and then you started to learn Pascal, you said, right?
Well, I was going to learn Pascal, but I went back and talked to a friend of mine at MIT, and he said, "Oh, don't learn Pascal. Learn C. Get Unix. Learn C." So I went home and bought a AT&T Unix computer for $12,000 without knowing C or what C was.
Okay.
And got Kernighan and Ritchie and learned C and wrote my program.
Wow. How long did it took to learn C for you?
6 months maybe.
It's a crazy story. And this is all in your leisure, right? So you worked full time?
No. Well, this was in addition to my law practice, right? So I was trying to get the law practice more efficient at this point. So this wasn't for fun.
No, but I mean, you had to learn C in order to write a program. So the learning C was waste of time first, because you were not productive at all. You just learned something, This was investment, I would say, right, in the future.
Yeah, the AT&T computer was a $12,000 investment, so I had to learn C to get some use out of it.
You're right. So $12,000 back then is like $20,000 now?
At least, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a long time ago. 1985. No, 90. This was probably 90 by the time I bought the AT&T computer.
1990, okay. So almost like a half a Mac Pro, right? Right now.
Well, when I got up to a megabyte, that was great improvement. I had to write this program so we took the white space out of the items, out of the data, so that it fit on the computer. We hung a bunch of dumb terminals off the back of this AT&T computer and spread them around the office. So I had about 5 people entering data into this AT&T computer and printing off the pleadings.
Okay.
Printing pleadings on a dot matrix printer at that time.
So what I understood right now is you wrote in C the first program or app, and then it was installed on the AT&T machine, and your colleagues got your dumb terminals, it's like a thin clients, and access your program remotely, right? That's
right. I wrote the interface in curses, Unix curses.
Okay.
And they were able to.
This is really incredible. I mean, this is like, you learned in half a year. Back then there was no internet, no Stack Overflow, so you only had the book and you had to understand what's going on. And what was the program about? So it was like Word or like a database, like Excel. So what was the purpose of the program?
Okay, so we get these cases. They send the cases over, and we have to keep track of all the money we spend, the names, the issues on the case, how far along the case is, and print out pleadings, a whole bunch of pleadings, papers.
Okay.
And in order to do that efficiently, we had to have a database to hold the names and the money, and we had to have a print driver to drive the printer and screens for the people to enter the data and view the cases.
And you wrote the database as well?
I did.
Yeah, but how you knew how to write a database? I mean, this was just your feeling, or I mean?
Well, I read up on it. I read enough to know.
Okay.
I mean, in Unix, you save everything in files. I just saved it all in files, but I had to put it in the files in a text file format.
Okay, incredible. So and then you started to enjoy programming, and you still. One question regarding the law practice: you were the owner of the shop, or just an employee, or how this works?
There was a law firm, 2 partners, called Peterson and Simpson at that time. 2 lawyers, bunch of secretaries, and a big client that had a bunch of cases they wanted us to handle.
Okay, and you were one of just how to call it, a lawyer, an employee of the owners. Okay.
No. Peterson is me, and Simpson is the other guy, and we own the law firm.
Ah, okay. You are the Peterson. It was you. You're one of the owner, and the other guys was the other half. Okay.
Right. He wasn't a geek at all. He didn't even really want me to do this, but I did it on my own.
Oh, okay. But at the end, he was happy that you did it, right? Or
Absolutely. When they were sending us 400 cases a month, there's no way in the world we could have handled it without a system.
Oh, perfect. It's a great story. Okay, so what happened after the Unix, or was it something interesting back then, or you mean after the AT&T machines? What you did then? You just started to improve your system, or you sold it to other law firms?
Oh, let me step through that. I'll get to the sell part kind of later. But I went talked to a professor here in Utah, and he recommended I get a Sun
station.
Yeah, station.
Sun workstation. Sun workstation. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I bought the Sun workstation and retooled my program into C++. Mm-hmm. And the users around the office were then changing to some kind of a desktop deal from dumb terminals, and so we hooked up the LAN in the office. And I'm not only doing the C programming, I had to figure out how to do the LAN and the
network.
Everything, yes. So that was the next step. C++, went to C++. And then a little later, or a lot later maybe, I kept hearing this write once, run everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I thought, hey, maybe I could sell this program. So maybe I shouldn't just write it from my office. Maybe I could sell it. So I got into Java to see if I could write once and sell it. But I'm a terrible salesman.
Okay.
I haven't sold it yet.
Okay. But the time will come. But I assume it was Java 1, right? Back then. This is the first version of Java.
Right. Yes.
So you learned C, C++, and then Java. And you enjoyed the Java experience? Or what was your impression of Java back then?
Well, it was great. It solved two problems with C++. I kept having pointer problems and overrunning my memory. Mm-hmm. So garbage collection was a great thing. And then I enjoyed Java a lot. Later, toward the end of my experience with the law, I switched over and bought an Oracle database and transferred over to Oracle ADF.
Okay.
And it's amazing to me how much Java you have to know to make Oracle ADF work, especially my program. But I had one great advantage, and that is I was writing the same program over and over, so I didn't have to relearn the program. I just had to learn the language.
And ADF is a Java server faces basically from Oracle.
Right, application server faces.
Yeah. And you bought the Oracle database because there were more features to implement, or what was the story? Why you were no more happy with the Java program without Oracle database?
Well, by then the computers were getting big, so we got a gigabyte server. When I got a gigabyte, I thought, hey, I'm never going to fill this up in 100 years. I might as well get the Oracle database and quit fiddling with my own database and let Oracle do that part of it. So I installed Oracle 8 and ran that on our server.
Yeah, I also used 8 and 8i, if you remember the database in my projects back then. And I think it was around 1996. So it's also when I used 1997, I used a lot of Oracle 8i, and the I stood for Internet, right? Everything was I back then.
As you say it, I remember that, yeah.
And this was around 1996, 1997. So Oracle was almost a default in my projects. It's always Oracle database. And we access the Oracle database via JDBC, but I never used ADF in production. So I knew what it was. Some clients asked me about that, but we used usually our own JSF from different vendors, but never from Oracle.
So I started off with JDBC and did JSF with Prime. Let's see what's called Prime Faces or something like that.
There was Ice Faces. Prime Faces were later, I think. There were from Sun. There were forgot the name. There was Sun had own Java server face framework, and there were from Apache MyFaces was also very popular, and Rich Faces was from Red Hat, and I forgot this one from Sun. It was a nice name actually. So it was shipped with NetBeans, so there was you could just draw the user interface.
And I was using NetBeans at that time too. So.
Oh, okay. Interesting story. And were you successful with the pure Java implementation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We had 200,000 cases in this operation at one point.
And you were more a lawyer or more like DevOps or developer back then? I mean,
well, I wrote a program that practiced law.
Yeah.
And when it pushed out the papers, I would sit down there and sign my lawyer name on the papers, send them down to court, file them with the court, and then that's how we worked. And the system was so good that the clerks at the court have to read all the papers to make sure they're up to standard. And we would take down big stacks of paper. At one point, we sent so many cases to the court that it overwhelmed their credit card limit.
Okay.
So they were getting big stacks of paper from us. We had this high volume practice, and the clerks read through these papers, and there was never a mistake because the program was not like a human being. It didn't make mistakes. Once you got it programmed, it just never failed again. So they quit reading my papers. They would just stamp them and file them.
Now, this was like actually genius, right? I mean, it was like the great invention, I would say. I mean, and yeah. I
was the first person in Utah to file electronically when they were trying to get electronic filing going in Utah.
Okay. What I think, you had an unfair advantage because you were a geek and a lawyer in one person. And usually, if you know the business logic well, or domain logic, it is fairly easy to implement the software. The problem is usually in projects, there are the business people and there are the geeks or developers. And this is then a lot harder to understand what the other person would like to have. So if you are in one person, you can be hyper productive. So we were in a projects, business projects where I was the only Java developer, and there were the CEO worked with me, and we built software in 2 weeks because he exactly knew what to do to implement the business logic. And what I heard, the software was refactored afterwards, and they spent 2 years with a huge team to trying to understand what's going on. And this was seems like similar story in your case.
Well, I had another advantage, and that is that when I put out an update, the users would be sitting in the next office, and if they didn't like it, they'd come in and tell me what was wrong with it, and then I'd go redo it. So
maybe you were one of the first, developers who practiced Agile without knowing what it is actually, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very good. So was it like there were like a text blocks which you could combine to an entire thing, because there was no AI, so the program how you produce a lot of paper, but you had like a DSL, domain specific language, where you can say do this and this and this, and then it produced the paper. How you did it? So I cannot just imagine.
Okay. I don't even know how to explain it exactly, but okay, to do a pleading, you have the standard language that you use on your text, right?
Yeah.
So that's a Word document. That's in Word.
Yeah.
And then you have to import into that the name of the defendant, the court, the items down in the text, and all that. So you have those slots you have to fill. So those come out of the database. So I have a database for courts. I have a database for clients. I have a database for defendants. I have a database for posts, money. And those I write the program to go out and collect all those items of data and stick it in this Word document, and then push the print button, and it comes out, and we send it to court.
Okay, so it's like a template engine. So you had a template with placeholders, and the placeholders were filled from database.
Exactly.
Oh, very good. Okay, now I understand.
One other advantage is that in this practice, there was people would get these papers and then they'd want to call in and talk about it. Well, if you had to go pull the file, you'd have to call them back and they'd never be available. That was terrible. So one of the great advantages was that the users, my secretaries, would have this up on their screen. They could push a button and get this case up on the screen with all the data spread out there, and for them to read off and talk to the people about when they called in on the phone. So that was a great thing too.
Perfect. I mean, this is incredible because you started, as a known programmer with C, C++, then you learned Java, then you had too much RAM, so you had to bought Oracle to fill the RAM, and then and then you wrote an ADF program, which was great success. It is. And what happened afterwards? So, I mean, you just kept, improving the program, and at one point of time you had to refactor that, or what was the story behind?
Well, it's running down at the law office right today, right? They're down there
okay.
typing on it right today. So, in fact, the last 10 days, I was going to work on my new project, but I had to go back down there and help them reinstall a backup server, WebLogic server. So I've been spending some time down there helping them do that. But my current project is to see if I could retool it for the new cutting edge, bleeding edge stuff. And that's how I got into Quarkus and Docker and AWS, and it's running now on the internet, a little kind of trial version of it, which you could look at and see what it looks like at the office, kind of.
Yeah,
but it's,
I would love to. So send me the link, and if you allow the listeners, you can also send a demo link. They could look at that.
Well, it's just juristech.com, so that's with a C, not CH. So that's
okay.
all that. Yeah.
Okay. So one question. So how you got to WebLogic? So I think you got the WebLogic because you already had Oracle, right? So this was the story. So you bought Oracle and then you got the WebLogic somehow, right?
Right. We bought the law firm bought an Oracle engineered server with Oracle in it. And so we also bought WebLogic application server.
Okay. So I guess on the machine there was a Sun logo, right? Because, no? But back then,
well, eventually, when I first started with it, way back when, we had Sun servers, but I think this latest one doesn't have a Sun logo on it.
Okay, you have one server or multiple servers, or?
Well, one database server and one application server, and this week I put in a second application server. All running, the two are running WebLogic, and the Oracle is running Linux. Is on a Linux server.
And the WebLogic are in cluster, right?
Excuse me?
They are clustered, the WebLogic servers, or are they just backup?
No, that's over. I haven't learned that yet.
Okay, you have time, no problem. I think you will buy a book and then you have the first high available law firm in Utah, I guess, right? Then.
Well, the second server is still in the testing stage, so we haven't even implemented that production wise.
Mm-hmm. So the story was you kept improving your program for 20 years, right? And now we are in the stage where there's the first big refactoring which happens right now, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I retired a year ago. I'm 76 years old, so I quit the law practice January of 2020.
Okay.
And came home to play around with my programming. So I'm just learning the new stuff, kind of for fun, but with some idea that I might sell it eventually.
Yeah. Are you happier right now? Just hacking?
I'm happy. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
It's like getting a murder mystery every morning. You get up in the morning, you don't know who the murderer was, and by the evening, you've figured it out. So that's a great way to spend your days.
Mm-hmm. And how we met is you appeared in one of the AHEX Live workshops. And the nice story is, I'm from Europe, you're from US, but there were other guys, you remember, from US as well. So there were one guy, I think he worked for a hospital or something like this. And there was a really nice community almost, right? So we had lots of fun together. So there was one guy, or two guys even from US, and some guys from Austria. And I remember the very first time, you were very eager. You asked lots of questions. The guys from US as well, and the Austrian guys were really lazy. So there was they almost slept. And for you was 2 a.m., right? Right.
Well, you have to get up at 2 a.m. to start. By the time you're finished, it's 9 o'clock in the morning here. You've missed a night of sleep.
Yeah, and I was really sorry for you, but it's really hard, to find a time zone which suits all the participants actually.
Well, actually, it didn't cut into my other life, so it was great.
Oh, okay. So for you it's perfect. So the question is how you found me. I mean, because the recent years I was involved in WebLogic 2003. I'm even a BA technical director was back then, but the recent years I just worked with Jakarta, Quarkus, Glassfish, and all the stuff. So how you found me back then? You remember the first time?
I don't remember exactly. You're on the internet. You're not exactly unfamous. Somebody said you're one of the gurus of the entire Java
Oh,
culture. And so I looked you up, and since I was trying to get back into Java EE,
mhm.
I program your workshops.
My online workshops. Okay, now I understand. And what I saw is that a law firm applied to my course, and I thought, what is this? I mean, is this like a patent or try to sue me, or what's
Yeah.
and then I saw you and I asked you, what do you expect? Maybe you are wrong here because I'm not about law, it's just hardcore hacking. But you said no, go ahead. I'm just retired and I would like to refactor my program. And I thought this is the best story ever, because my plan is actually to keep developing as long as possible. I really enjoy it. I have no plans to become a manager or whoever. Just coding is fun from my perspective. Is really interesting, and the only problem is lack of time. This is my only problem, but I really enjoy every moment programming.
Well, you've got another advantage, is that you work out of Munich, and Munich holds a special place in my heart because I spent 2.5 years there in Bavaria.
Mm-hmm. And you said that what you did in Munich and Bavaria?
I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
I was in Augsburg, Nuremberg, Erlangen, Lindau am Bodensee, and Munich.
Okay. And what do you have to do as a missionary?
And knock on doors and try and talk people out of their beer, which is a little hard in Bavaria. So
I think so. So a hard time was okay. Interesting story. So, but you still like Bavaria back then. Also, you were not very successful as a missionary, I think, right?
That's true. That's true. But it was a great experience. I mean, a gorgeous place.
Yeah. So now you started to refactor, your ADF Oracle database to Quarkus, which is quite a journey, I would say. And what impressed me, you attended the workshop, and in one point of time, I started to talk about the structure. So, the components and the layers. And you said, okay, what I remember, these are the names. And they were just perfect. So it seems like your software is structured around business responsibilities still. And what you said back then, like, clients, and you just, out of nothing, you just said, okay, this is my components. So, okay, this seems perfect.
Yeah, my Quarkus packages are clients, notes, money, posts, defendants.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
So that's my package names.
Yeah. And in my projects, I have to talk 3 hours, to explain that actually the package have to be named, after business responsibilities. Now it's a little bit easier, but 2 years ago was crazy. It was just everything but not business. And for you, it was natural. What I also remember, after the workshop, you said, now I have to merge my microservices to one, right? You said.
That's right. No, I've done that. And so now I have one Docker running the whole screen instead of one for each of those categories. So.
And it's easier right now, right?
It's better. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have one, let's call it app. There's no more microservice. Let's call it app with the packages, the top level packages. And then you have the structure boundary control entity, I suppose, internally, right?
Yeah. Each one of those kind of is a CRUD of itself, right? So I have to
exactly
do all of that. Right.
And you're exposing REST interfaces to the outside of it, JAX or REST, or what are you doing?
No, this is a visual. This is I also took your course on components, right? Web components.
Okay.
So I'm writing that.
And you're happy with the web components, or is it?
I'm happy with it. It's highly complex for me. The whole JavaScript thing has been a kind of a test, but I'm getting it. It's up and running. It's running on AWS right now with the screens and all kinds of tables and buttons and all that stuff. So I'm getting it.
Very good. So already on AWS. So I assume the front end is on S3, right? Straight, or is it on Quarkus?
No, it's on EC2.
Oh, EC2. Right, okay, EC2. Virtual machine. Okay, yeah. So you're running inside EC2 a Docker image, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. There is an easier, two possibilities. I don't know whether you're aware. There is a Graviton. You know Graviton on AWS? You heard about that?
No.
There is a different kind of hardware on AWS. It's called Graviton. This is ARM-based processor. And I think it should run Java just fine. and you can save money because it's cheaper than the Intel. So, and this is as powerful but cheaper. It's called Graviton. This is what you can do. And what I think you have to do the math, but what could be even better for you is to use ECS Fargate. This is the name of AWS. So you are pushing the Docker container to the Fargate is not that hard, especially not if you are in public internet. If you have to fiddle with the VPCs, it's a little bit harder, but in internet is fine. ECS Fargate. And then you don't have to care about the machines. You can just say, I would like to have 2 containers, and this is with the CPU and the RAM. And now you have more time, and you are a young hacker. So what you can also do, right? Take a look at spot instances. What you can do a little bit, this ECS, if you the spot instances on AWS is kind of how to call it, unused resources. So you can very cheaply buy additional resources on AWS. I mean, cheaply is 80% of the costs. And the deal is, I think you get notified, but you have like 5 minutes to go away. So they will kill you, but it's not a problem because the ECS will start a new Docker. But this is too much. Just until the next workshop, there are weeks, so just for you that you can save a little bit of time. But the ECS Fargate, I think it will be time saver for you because it is a way easier to operate than EC2 with SSH and everything else. So it's very, very easy.
I appreciate it. Every time I talk to you, I get a new assignment.
Yeah, this is how it works in my case, because I'm consultant. I always have, to change everything. Otherwise, I would be jobless,
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And are you happy with the Quarkus Java new experience, or?
I'll tell you one thing I had trouble with was Redux. Boy, it took me a long time to get my head around that.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I was so hard that I took a flyer into Elm for a month or so to see if I couldn't solve it another way. But that turned out to be not productive.
Yeah, Elm is no. This is worse than C back then, I would say. But I don't know whether you know there is a free course from what I recorded called From Redux to Redux Toolkit. So this is.
I got it. I've got that.
Yeah,
but I'm talking.
Before you attended the live workshop, okay?
Right, that's right.
Okay, so but this is great. I mean, for a lawyer. It's perfect, On the Redux, on the JavaScript developers, they really don't like it because they tell it's too complex. But I think if you do it right, it's just, a singleton, a single store. And this is like what we did in Pascal on the C. And the idea is if someone changes the state, everything gets notified and gets refreshed. By the way, you saw the BCE design template I published on GitHub? I think you had to.
I know about your BCE design template, yes.
Yeah, this is with integrated Redux, and this is what it was used in several projects already, commercial projects where the entire refresh is already working. Okay, so how your day looks like now? So you working 10 hours a day just hacking, or what are you doing there now as a fresh programmer, young programmer now, right? So young full-time programming, yeah.
That's exactly right. I get up in the morning and do my exercises and come down to the basement and turn on my computer and play around till 3 o'clock in the afternoon and wear out and quit.
On exercises, you go running, or what are you doing, or what kind of exercises?
Yeah, I ride my bicycle and got some weights I lift. And
okay, at home, ergometer, or is it like treadmill?
No, I've got a bike. I ride it out on the streets.
Oh, okay. So it's a nice scenery in Salt Lake City. Is it like flat or?
No, it's mountainous. It's almost Switzerland-like.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful.
Okay. I thought it's flat because it's not that far from Las Vegas, right? It's like.
Well, after our last conversation, I had to go clear out to Tonopah, Nevada, so I went past the UFO place for you.
Yeah, exactly. So at the last workshop, we just briefly mentioned Area 51, and I say, okay, I will have to visit Area 51, in next week. And should I do something for you? It's like, okay, if you meet the aliens, greetings from Java, and hopefully, you saw something.
Well, aliens are making a lot more news these days than they were back time when we talked. They're in the news all the time these days.
Yeah,
all these UFOs. Yeah.
Okay, and. what is your next sprints or your next task? What you're implementing? So what do you have to implement? So what is your or how you what do you know? What you would like to achieve in the next weeks, month with your program? So what is lacking, and how far are you? How happy are you with the current state of your software?
I'm happy with the current state. It's in the beginning stages. I've got to do again and again and again what I've done already, and that is I've got maybe 30 buttons, 30 tabs that I've got to fill in with the CRUDs for each of these areas, and so it's kind of the same thing over and over again for a while here until it gets up to the standard of the one that's running down at the office.
Okay, so you would like to have like a almost carbon copy version of your current software, but better suited for clouds, right?
Well, I would like to enable the buttons that are running on, or that I've already programmed into the current version on the cloud. So they're just dead buttons now. You push them and they don't do anything. I've got to enable all the buttons that are on there.
Okay. Because in the web components, so they are just dead. This is like, the fat client is just the user interface, and they will talk via HTTP and JSON called REST with the backend. This is the JAX-REST Quarkus. So in the clouds, you will need either 2 layers. This is what I asked you prior to that, because the web components could just sit on S3. This is the name of the service of Amazon, Simple Storage Service. I think this is the acronym. And what you can do is you can enable the S3 as a, how to call it, website. I think this is the button. And then you have a web server without Quarkus. It just sits there. And you know that, this S3 part?
No, I haven't used S3 in that way. No.
Okay, so S3 is like, there is even free software called CyberDuck. This is what CyberDuck is one. There are several, but CyberDuck is a nice one. And with the CyberDuck, it looks like FTP or SCP, and you can upload your stuff to Amazon, to S3.
So I'm using Quarkus to access Postgres, where my data is stored.
You're right.
Database.
This is perfect, but this is the backend. But for the web components, you actually don't need Quarkus. You can copy the JavaScript and HTML files to S3 and make them available from outside.
Okay.
And just
another assignment.
Yeah, maybe you have to work tomorrow until 4 p.m.
Well, hey, I've got a long future to work. I'm not in any rush.
Yeah, and okay, so then the architecture would be you can have S3. Then you would like to have a nice domain name maybe for your thing. What you can do is you can use, it's called Route 53. Route 53 is another AWS service. And then you can, have your domain name, which will point to the S3 stuff.
Oh, okay, I've got my domain name registered with name.com, and it'll point to my
Yeah, you can also use that. You can use external domain name, which points to the S3. And this what I told you right now is actually not recommended by AWS. It works, but what they recommend is to put, it's called CloudFront before S3. But it's just configuration. It sounds scary, but it's not programming, just configuring. And this CloudFront is like a cache, which makes faster and a little bit more secure, because you can specify who accesses the S3 bucket. This is the name bucket. So it's not no programming involved. You just know to have a website on AWS, you will need Route 53 for the domain names. You can use external. Then S3 for these are the buckets. The storage is like the web server, and then you have. And then you have the CloudFront like a cache, and this will be globally available. And by the way, this is default architecture if we have on AWS such a services what we are using. And Quarkus would run in Fargate, for instance. This will be the easiest possible thing. And if you say Fargate is too expensive or too expensive, too complicated, maybe there's even cheaper solution for you. This is just remember this right now. It's called Light Sail. And this light sail from Amazon is like a very simple, how to call it? Yeah, container service, but you pay a fixed amount of money per month. So the machines are not very powerful, but you are paying like, I don't know, 10 euros or $15 a month and never more. This is like, how to call it? It's like a fixed budget solution for beginners, but it's also a great way to start. It's called Light Sail.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look into that.
Yeah, just look at this. This is, I would say, it's very easy to use, and Quarkus in the backend is perfect. The thing I wanted to tell you is not necessary to use another Quarkus just for the web components, right? What you can do at the beginning, you can put everything into one Quarkus. The problem with this approach is, if you would like to change, the CSS, an image, or HTML, you will have to redeploy the entire business logic, which is a little bit risky. So, and therefore, I try to separate this, that in the backend, I have a JAX-RS with the API. And in the front end, I have like just the assets like JavaScript, CSS, HTML. And if I would like to change, the font or the color, I only push new stuff to S3, and I am absolutely sure that the backend is untouched. So this is the thing.
That sounds absolutely appropriate.
Yeah. Last time is this, you didn't ask a lot of questions during the workshop, but you said, after the first 10 minutes, like, now I'm happy and I can quit the workshop. What was it actually? So you remember that? You said, you solved my problem right now. I was really amazed because there was like half an hour of the workshop, and I said, okay, but you can still attend, no problem.
And I can't remember what that issue was, but I know I went into the workshop with an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I signed up for the workshop for that issue. And when you solved it, I'd made my money.
Oh, very good. Perfect. Anything which you still need information from me? We can do a private consulting, which is not that private, but.
Well, you've already given me 3 or 4 assignments here. I better go crack the books on those and see and so I'll have intelligent questions to ask the next time we talk. Okay.
Very good. So I would say thank you for your time, right? So we actually covered a lot of ground, and I really admire your attitude. That you are, and no kidding, your questions were excellent during the workshop, and really as a lawyer, for me, this is like unimaginable because you had usually because as a lawyer there's complete. You have to how to call it. Some responsibility. There are lots of time involved, and if you find time to learn programming and you are good on it, so it's not bad. So really great. Well,
it's been interesting and a fun way to spend my days, and so I'm not unhappy about any of the things I've done.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, and hopefully see you in the future. And I'm really curious whether the tips with Fargate and the Light Sail, whether they helped you, with your current mission.
I'll let you know.
Hey, one question. What is the name of the program? I forgot it completely. The software. It is just a cool name?
Just dial up Juristech, JURISTEC.com, and look at the program.
Okay.
That's not the final version. It's kind of under construction, but it'll give you an idea of what it looks like at the office.
But do you have a project name?
No.
Okay, like Law Dragon or something like this. Usually,
No.
You remember Java? Java had always cool names. We had Java 5 Tiger, and there was always nice project names.
I guess I'm too much of a lawyer to get enthused about that.
Okay, you are right. Okay, so thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. My
Perfect.
pleasure.